What did your parents do for a living?
Well, my father is deceased. He was deceased while my mom was pregnant um, with me and my twin sister. Um, and my mother, she was just, she did several different jobs, but mainly at just work for plants.
What would be her role?
What would be her role?
Yeah, at the plants.
Oh, just regular worker. Putting stuff in boxes and different things like that.
How did your father pass away, if you don't mind me asking?
He was accident. He accidentally shot himself.
Now, when it comes to your mother, did she want you to follow her footsteps or fields when it came to your career?
Um, my mother was happy with the fact because I've always been like naturally funny. Um, she had a big problem though with me being a poker player. She did not like that. She didn't consider it work.
And did that create a rift between you two?
It definitely did.
And was that something that was able to get resolved? That rift?
Oh, it was eventually. I was living with her all the way up to my to my later years, and um, I never could get really anyone in my family to understand that poker was a skill, that it was actually a profession. No one, everyone looked at it as just gambling.
How long did you end up doing that for?
7 years.
And just to be a little bit more technical, when you said you were living with your mother in your later years, when did you finally move out?
I was 26 when I finally moved out.
What is your opinion on that? On the age someone stays with a parent?
My opinion is if you are in a situation where you can help yourself and, because although I was staying with my mom, I wasn't just staying with her and not helping on bills. And, my mom is single. So, I was, she loved the company. So I feel like if you're there and you're a help and you're not just living on your mom or your parents, then I feel it's fine if especially if you're looking out for your parents. But just flat out freeloading, no, I don't. I think it's sometime you need to leave the nest and create your own.
And this applies to your own children as well?
Oh, definitely. I gotta prepare them for the world. That this it just doesn't work that way.
And in the American society, financially, how would you describe your upbringing?
We were definitely poor.
Now, was your household able to move up to a higher income group at some point, or did it stay poor?
We were able to move up. My mother met someone who took us in, a great father figure. And so we were moved out of poverty into our first condo and just we were able to enjoy a better lifestyle of life.
Would you be able to say if it was lower middle class at that point, middle class, upper middle class?
Definitely upper middle class.
Would you characterize it even further as rich?
Definitely not rich.
Okay, upper middle class. And what age was that in your life when you start to experience that?
13.
And because you were able to see both income groups, what did you learn from that? What did that teach you, if
Taught me,
anything?
it actually taught me that there was a better way to live. There was better education out there. The teachers were totally different from where I came from. I came from Los Angeles and went to a school where the teachers actually cared and found out that me and my sister were just being passed along. We hadn't learned what we were supposed to. We were actually held back a year because we weren't on the level that we were supposed to be on.
So does that mean, okay, so you had to do a grade twice. What grade was that?
5th grade. So embarrassed, I'll never forget.
And what age were you when you ended up graduating?
18.
Had that not happened, you would have graduated at 17.
Correct.
And care to share what school that was? The the elementary school when you ended up having to do the same grade twice.
Whoa, man, that was elementary. It was in San Diego, California, but I have no idea. Oh, Rolling Hills. 'Cause it just came back to Rolling Hills.
Now, what age were you back then when you sought to earn money for the first time?
Wow. 11 years old.
What'd you end up doing?
I was selling bubble gum. I was going to what they had is a store that's like Sam's called Smart and Final. I buy the charm pops. That's when I started learning about profit margin and everything at a young age.
And where would you sell this stuff
At school.
And how was that income there?
It was great. There were times where we had moved on. The relationship that my mom was no longer, so we were back to being by ourselves again. And my mom sometimes didn't have money for gas, or our lights were about to get turned out. And I actually had money that I could give her to contribute toward our household, which was amazing for that age. People used to call me Little Hustler because I would do anything. I'd pump gas, cut yards, collect cans, whatever it takes to make a little income to help our household.
Back then, when you were doing all those different types of hustles, what garnered the most profit? Was it the pumping of the gas? Was it the selling of the charms, blow pops or lollipops or candy or?
Definitely candy. Candy was a great profit margin. It was like $5 for a box of charms. I'd make $25 a box, a $20 profit.
Just off other kids?
Just off other kids. And if you wanted credit, I'd charge 50 cents instead of 25 cents you could wait till the next week.
Would there be that one kid that just wouldn't end up paying?
Of course, we had those. And also had the girls who could smile their way into a free charm pop. You know the game.
How would you deal with kids back then that didn't pay you?
Back then, I just use it as shrinkage. I actually was learning terminologies of stuff that, you're going to take a loss sometimes. I just put it in a loss. And most of the time, it's a pretty good kid. It's okay.
Back then, when you were selling candy, were there already other kids doing this?
I was the only one.
There weren't other kids that saw what you were doing and wanted to sell candy too?
No, I think I pretty much was the only kid who had to sell candy. I think everyone else was doing pretty good.
Would you ever get in trouble? Would you ever get reprimanded for selling candy to other kids at the time?
No, I definitely would always get in trouble, but it wouldn't be for selling the candy.
What would it be for?
Making the class laugh, being a class clown, interrupting class.
That sort of thing there. Okay, when you did live in that income group of upper middle class, how long did that last for? Because it started about 13,
Mm-hmm.
and then I guess when your mother and this person relationship ended, you guys were back on your own.
Yeah, it was about 2.5 years that we were able to live good.
Did it end up going back to being poor at some point?
Yes, it did. But you have to really define the word poor. It was financially poor, but we were family rich. So everyone, we were fine. It was because we had so much family and everyone looked out for each other.
Now, what age were you when you had your first job?
Well, I was actually 17, 11th grade. My grandfather gave me a job and paid me the wages that he paid everyone else. And it was amazing the first time I got my first check.
And what type of job was this?
Janitor.
Was this a family business or you were the only family member he hired?
Family business. My uncle also worked with us as well.
Now, speaking of a family business, do they go easy or hard on you compared to other non-family employees?
My grandfather went hard on everyone. He had big accounts with Liberty Mutual and other companies. And man, I couldn't understand why he was so hard on me until you kind of get out and learn on your own. But he did not play, and you didn't want to hear it, so you'd make sure everything had to be perfect.
Working in a family business, did this bring your family closer or farther apart because of this business?
Definitely closer. And the funny thing is, I didn't realize how good we had it because we're living in Rancho Cucamonga. I'm living with my grandparents now. My grandmother owns a beauty salon, a couple of beauty salons, and my grandfather has his janitorial service. So we were doing really, really good, and I had no idea because I had no sense of how money worked.
Have you ever considered a family business yourself?
Definitely.
Did you end up moving forward with one, or it was just a consideration?
I moved forward with one.
Care to share? Care to
Uh,
explain?
Detailing cars.
And I want to ask you those same questions, being this was a business you had owned at one point.
Yes.
How many family members did you end up hiring?
I had one cousin, and then I used my ex-wife to do my books.
And were you easy or harder on your family members versus non-family employees?
Definitely harder on family members because, you know, you expect more from them, and people coming in trying to teach them in the ways, but if they see your family members slacking, that's going to give them a reason to slack. So you tend to find yourself doing that a little bit.
Did this family business bring your family closer or farther apart?
Definitely brought us closer until something else brought us further, which was back to the poker. So it ended up.
And do you want to shed any light on that?
Well, poker was a time consumer. It was definitely taken away from my marriage, and I felt as long as I was taking care of everything at the house financially, then we were fine. But at that age, saying I'm 25, 26, I'm not understanding that nothing can replace time. Doesn't matter if everything else is going good. So, in a sense, poker cost me a lot.
Including that marriage?
The marriage and the business.
How long did you have the business for?
3 years.
Hypothetically speaking, if poker didn't hurt the business, how long do you think this business would have lasted for?
Forever. People are still calling me now, wanting their car. It was a passion that I have. I'm not going to even say had. It's a passion that I have. I really enjoy cleaning cars, and I knew at that time that I was the best because I took my time. I did those small things that people appreciate, and that's how I was able to build a business one car at a time.
When it comes to a family business, I forgot to ask you this question when you were working for a family business, but now that you own a family business at one point in your life, I guess this question is for either or scenario. But, how do you deal with if you have an issue with a family member on the job, but then you got to deal with them at home?
Right.
Is that something that carries over from the job to the home, or is whatever happens at the job stays at the job?
You learn in time to have a discussion. You have to try your best to separate them. Is that easy? No. But you have to try your best to separate them. Leave the mistake or whatever that happens on the job there when you get home, and just let a person know. A lot of time what people don't understand is you have to come from both sides of a fence. And if you let a person know that you're disappointed in what they did, but you also understand how you could have made this mistake, that carries a lot more weight than just, oh, why you didn't do this and now you want to go home. And, time is valuable. Say what you got to say, be done with that, and then move on to the next day. That's always been my philosophy on things.
Would you ever consider a family business again?
I definitely would, but only if everybody's going to be just as committed as I am. Because what happens is when you have a business or a dream or a vision, if everyone is not tuned into what your vision is, it's going to collapse. Because if you have, I don't want to be a business, I want to be a business owner, not self-employed. And if I'm going to be a business owner where I don't have to be there, I'm going to have to trust my family to get the things done as if I was there.
What about working with a significant other? Would you ever own a family business and hire family members but not incorporate a significant other? Or does that not matter? You would work and hire your significant other?
That's a great question, because here's the thing. It really depends on if you're going to be able to get the person to understand. And you pretty much know, if you've been in a relationship long enough, if I got to be questioning or be questioned on every decision that I make, I'd rather not do it. But now, if we're already working as a team on our relationship, and then we decide to get a business, I think that since we're, business is a huge relationship. They go hand in hand. So I feel if a person has that type of relationship, then they can definitely bring that over to a business as well. But myself personally, I'd have to, that relationship, it's going to be a different scenario each time.
In a family business in the future, would you ever have, okay, in the previous business, you never hired your kids.
Hired, kind of try to train a little bit, check it out. But, with that business, it's hot. No, your kids are like, yeah, I'm out. It's a hard business to get people. Your turnover is a lot, because that's a passionate thing that you have to do, and people are just not going to do the job that you will do. It's really, really hard. It's tedious work.
If you did do a family business again, would you consider hiring your kids or no?
I definitely would.
Now, okay, I kind of asked you, I probably should have framed this question a little bit sexier, a little bit in one question. I kind of broke it up into three. So let me ask you one more shot here. If you were to do a family business in the future, would you hire, and again, every scenario is different, so I guess this is if it was a perfect world and everything made sense. But if you were to do a family business again, would you hire family members that weren't your immediate family, or you would consider hiring your immediate family?
I definitely would.
Definitely would. Which way?
I would definitely hire family members, and even some immediate, and even some that are not close, just ones that I know that can get the job done and I would need done.
Okay. I didn't know if it was one of those scenarios. You would hire family in the future, but not your immediate. Or maybe you would hire family in the future, maybe not the significant other, but the kid's okay. Or maybe you would hire your significant other, not your kids, and other family. I just didn't know.
I got you.
What scenario there, but
yeah. And just as a side note, the family business moving forward now would be a different type of business. We're talking about comedy, so we're talking about my sister taking care of books. We're talking about my brother taking care of security. My kids doing things that I need to do, maybe with social media. So this type of business, you really would want your family involved in these things.
Now, okay, aside from your very first job, which was, I guess your role was a janitor?
Yes.
Okay, and that was for your grandfather on your mother's side that you worked for. That was your very first job. What did the rest of the resume look like back then? If you know the chronological order, I'd like to hear it that way.
Okay, then I went to working for Pit Barbecue in Rancho Cucamonga as a cook. Learned a lot from the guy who owned that place. Then I left there. Became a baseball, basketball, really a card dealer. Learned from a guy about the different ratings on cards. And this guy named Steve, I'll never forget him. This guy really, really liked me. He gave me a Michael Jordan rookie, Ken Griffey Jr. rookie, a couple other rookie cards, and said, hold on to these cards, young man. And later on, when you're older, you'll be able to buy you a house, you'll be able to buy you a car. I'm young. I'm at that time. I think I was 17 years old. He gave me those cards, and I went right to the next baseball card and sold them as soon as he gave them to me. Big mistake. Had no idea what he gave me.
And then after that job?
That job, left there and ended up working for Tyson Chicken Plant in Nashville, Arkansas.
And what was your role there?
And I was a marinator. I started out on the line, on deboning line. Ended up being a marinator in the cook room.
Okay, and then after that?
After that, shipping and receiving, forklift driver.
Okay.
Then after that, I ended up here in Atlanta. So I was working at Publix in the meat department, right there off of North Deshaun in Stone Mountain. And McDonald's. I had 2 jobs at that time as a cook at McDonald's. Then I ended up working for Blockbuster. Left Blockbuster and became a full-time manager at the liquor store, Deshaun Bottle, in Stone Mountain, Georgia. After that, became a comedian.
What about the poker playing? Where did that fit in?
The poker player came before the comedy. So after I left Deshaun Bottle, I ended up doing the poker. That's when I did all the poker.
Okay, now I want to dissect some of these jobs just for a little bit more detail that might have been withheld in the conversation. Okay, very first job, you were a janitor working for your grandfather. How long did that gig last for?
2 years.
Fired or quit?
Quit.
Pit Barbecue, you were a cook. How long did that last for?
Probably about 6 months.
Fired or quit?
Quit.
Now, at the car dealer, what was your actual role?
At the which one?
Well, at the car dealer, were you a car dealer yourself?
Yeah,
or you were working for a car dealer?
Yes, I help people pick out the cars that they want, sorted cards, basically a salesman.
Okay. And how long did that gig last for?
I did that for a year.
And fired or quit?
Quit.
Then at Tyson, you were a marinator.
Mm-hmm.
And how long did that last for?
I worked there 3 years.
And again, fired or quit?
Fired.
For what?
Oh God, that's embarrassing. Well, I worked in the freezer area. I had to use the restroom. I was outside by a trash can, and I could not make it back to that freezer to go to. So I took a look this way and used the restroom. 2 maintenance guys were walking by, seen me, went and reported. I had no idea about USDA and all this stuff. I just had to use the restroom. But this is the first time that I learned a lesson about self-incriminating, because they called me in the office. Everyone was all nice. They're like, well, we can understand. So you just had to go real bad. I was like, yeah, it's okay. Just write that down. Wrote everything down and was fired immediately because of a USDA infraction. I'm like, which kind of confused me. I'm like, is that a trash can? There had to be worse stuff out there than what I'd done. But that was my first lesson. And when they came back and told me, it could have just been my word against their word instead of me self-incriminating myself and writing the statement.
Now, you were 3 years into this job. They couldn't just count this as a warning?
Well, you got to remember, had USDA caught me, it could have shut the plant down completely.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying? Millions of dollars lost. So it's kind of one of those zero tolerance things that I just wasn't really thinking at the time.
Then you became a forklift driver for shipping and receiving. And what company? Was there a name to this company?
No, that was still I had been promoted to that. That was still at Tyson.
Oh, that was still at Tyson.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I didn't know that. All right, so that was part of the 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, mariner to forklift driver. And, all right, so that's that. Uh, then at Publix, you worked simultaneously at McDonald's. Publix, you were in the meat department. How long did that last for?
Publix, it's funny because they liked me in Publix so much. I kept quitting and coming back, quitting and coming back. So I did that for 3.5 years.
But never fired.
Never fired.
And McDonald's, you were a cook. How long did that last for?
It was the same thing, 3.5 years. I just kept going. You know, I'd leave that one, automatically go over to Publix.
Never fired, though.
Never fired.
Now, at Blockbuster, I don't think you said what your role was.
Yeah, I was just, just a salesman.
Okay. And how long did that last for?
Like 2 months. I was working there just to get the free movies that you get, the benefits but after I did it for a while, I was like, it's not worth it.
And you quit
Yeah,
or get
just
fired?
quit.
Okay. Deshaun Bottling, you were a manager there. Did I pronounce that right?
Yep, Deshaun Bottle.
Deshaun Bottle. There you go. How long did that last for?
I was there for 2 years.
And you quit or got fired?
I quit. One night, the owner calls me up at about 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why he called me. He thought he heard someone in the liquor store. So I rush up there to get him, and he's literally high on something. And he's just running around going, watch out, watch out. He's over there. So I'm trying to get him calmed down. We end up going down to Publix because he's just paranoid out of his tail. He doesn't know what's going on. And so one of the big crew members, kind of pushed him on the ground. I'm like, oh, that's not necessary. I'm just trying to get him home. We get him in my new car that I just got. I'm taking him home. He's still looking in the back. Hurry up. They're chasing us. Trying to get him to his house. He literally pulls out a gun. Me and the dog are in there. I panic. I pull over to the side, jump out of my car with the dog. I've got blood on my T-shirt because he'd been bleeding from when the guy had beat him up. And we're walking down Five Forks Trickham in the dark, me and the dog. And I'm trying to wave people down to try to get a ride back to Highway 78. I got blood on me. No one's going to stop. Then the police finally come up on me when they see me walking. He flips and totals my car. And that's when they put two and two together. That was the person. And so that was pretty much why I quit. And no one's ever heard that story. But you can't make this stuff up, man.
And the poker player, I believe you said, I can't remember. I think you said how long you were being a poker player
Yeah,
for.
7 years.
7 years. 7 years as a poker player, and I guess you work for yourself as a poker player?
Yes. Also was a dealer.
And did you work for a company when you were a dealer?
No, just like they'd have tournaments and all that stuff, so I do those.
Now, the only time you ever worked one job simultaneously was Publix and McDonald's. Every other job was one after the other.
Well, at one time, I did Tyson and Beer Poland, but I did that for it was a weed eater plant that was right across the street that Sears owned. But I did that only for 3 months because one night I was driving home and I woke up literally driving in a ditch. And I'm like, okay, that's, you can't take the money with you. I was enjoying getting 2 full-time checks, but it wasn't worth taking to the grave.
What was your role there?
I worked on the line. I just sealed the packages that the weed eaters went in.
And you quit or get fired there?
Yeah, I quit.
Now, were any of the jobs out of this resume you have here tough?
McDonald's was tough.
Out of all these jobs, McDonald's was tough.
McDonald's was tough. When that rush hour came in, they were expecting you to get a certain amount of burgers, a certain amount of stuff. You wouldn't think it is, but those guys deserve way more money. Let me tell you, that's a high-pressure job.
Would you say out of all these jobs, that was the toughest job?
That was definitely to me the toughest job. The rest of the job, I'm a people's person, so it was really kind of amazing that I was really getting paid to just vibe with people.
Were any of the jobs dangerous?
Uh, the marinating job definitely for Tyson, and shipping and receiving can be dangerous if you didn't follow all the rules. Definitely.
Did you ever get hurt on that job, or did you ever see anyone else get hurt?
No, never seen anyone ever get hurt.
But the possibility is there.
It's there, yeah.
What was the best thing about any of these jobs?
People, especially Publix. I learned and got to know so many people just in the era of the Stone Mountain there, and I was a DJ at that time. People would come and get my mixtapes and my mix CDs, so I was able to take the people that I knew through Publix and a barbershop, Glover's barbershop right there in Stone Mountain, and actually build a clientele.
How long did the DJing last for?
I was doing mix CDs probably for as long as I was in Stone Mountain. So I would say probably about 6 years.
And why did that stop?
Just kind of outgrew it. CDs just kind of went away. When I first came to Atlanta, I was doing mixed tapes. Then the blank CDs came out, which were expensive as heck, and then those got cheaper, and I was able to do mixed CDs, and then the next they just went completely obsolete. So,
care to share your DJ name back then?
DJ Slim.
And on the opposite end of the spectrum, what was the worst thing about any of these jobs?
Oh, the pay at McDonald's was the worst. It was long hours, lots of stress for little money.
Which one paid the best out of all these jobs?
The liquor store.
When it came to these jobs, which worked with customers? Was it just the meat department at Publix? You actually worked with customers?
Yeah, every last one of those jobs were customer based.
Okay. Well, not McDonald's. You were more so a cook there.
Yeah, that's true. I would say that, but not customers, just the people that you work with. So yeah, not customers. You're right. Just people in general.
And at Pit Barbecue, you were a cook too, so you weren't really dealing with.
Yeah, but I was a cook who took orders.
Oh,
this
okay.
guy was. He was cutting every corner he could. Okay.
Well, let me ask you this: at Pit Barbecue, how would bad customers get dealt with?
Anytime there was a problem, he always told me just to bring him back out, and he was one of the smartest, soft-spoken guys that I really knew. He never really let his philosophy was just how Publix is. The customer's always right, no matter what, and he never really had any altercations, just like at Publix. And I knew people were getting over, and there was a lady. There's no way. I just steamed her like $150 worth of crab legs. She gets it to the register, walks out to her car. I'm going to the restroom. I seen her walk out to her car. She comes back in, says she never got her crab legs. And the manager's like, all right, no problem, ma'am. And we had to steam her another $150 worth. And, it's not my stuff. When you go to some job where people do that. But I'm just like, come on. But it's no argue policy, no matter what. At Publix, the customer is always right.
And at Pit Barbecue, there were never incidents of employees spitting in someone's food or dropping a item and putting it back on the food and serving it to the customer or things of that nature.
No, mainly people would just bring back and say, I want a bigger piece of chicken. That's about the biggest problem you'd have there.
But employees wouldn't get back at the customers.
No.
Now, my next question was going to be any crazy stories, anything out of the norm other than what we talked about in this interview about some of the jobs you worked at. But this incident at with the owner of the bottle company and your car and the
Yeah,
that might have
can't
answered
top
that.
that one.
That was probably the craziest thing that happened.
Definitely.
And the cop flipped into your car?
No, the my old manager, he flipped.
Oh, he flipped your
Yeah, he
car.
totaled my car.
Oh, got
And
you.
I didn't even press charges or anything, you know what I'm saying? Because it was obvious he was under the influence, but the state still hit him with grand theft auto. That's crazy, right?
Do you know what ended up happening with that whole case there?
Nah, I have no idea what happened.
You get you had car insurance?
Definitely had car insurance. Got me another car.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to know how that worked out.
And his parents, even though I got insurance, they still made sure everything was good. They actually thought I was still gonna work there, but I was like, I can't do it. This is trauma.
Now, when it came to these jobs, were you doing comedy at all
No.
when you were doing any of these jobs, or that was before your time?
Yeah, I wasn't doing any kind of stand-up, but I was definitely making the poker games. There was always, everybody always wanted me at their game because it was always great for the game. There's always going to be great entertainment at the tournaments, you know. So, and a lot of people would tell me through all these jobs that I missed my calling. I never thought that I would actually be doing stand-up comedy or creating funny content, but I heard that a lot growing all the way up is you've missed your calling.
You heard that, but how do you feel about that? Do you agree with that?
I definitely agree with that, but I'm glad I didn't miss it. I took a writing class. It was my first time Jeff Justice writing class, and as a graduation, I had to go up and do a comedy set at the end. And after I did my set, he pulled me to the side and he says, "You got the one thing that the rest of my students in this particular class didn't have is your likability. Right from the jump, people like you." And it was him who told me to stay clean. That's why I'm a clean comedian. That's why I got the tour with Kountry Wayne. Is because I was already doing clean comedy. And, you know, I'm so grateful to him that he told me to do that. He said, you know, Eddie Murphy got his first break through Saturday Night Live. Then he came back and did Raw. So he's like, just stay clean, keep writing every day. And he says, you're going to be successful with comedy. He told me that before I even started doing it.
Can you explain what that means, a clean comic or clean comedy or that phrase there?
I don't use profanity.
What about as far as subject matter?
My subject matter, I stick strictly to things that people won't be offended by.
So are there certain subject matter you just stay away from completely?
I definitely stay away from certain.
Can you care to share what you stay away from?
Stay away from politics. I stay away from anything that can my words can be twisted on. You know, I stick to the stuff that you can relate to and be like, even if you're not falling out the chair, you're going, oh, I definitely can relate to that. And that, you know, that's the biggest thing that has gained me the success that I've been having and will continue to gain me. The relatability and the honesty is way more better than anything else you can put out there anyway.
What about some other topics here that are coming to mind? Religion?
No, I do religion because I'm a Christian growing up in a Baptist church. I do a Baptist preacher, and I think there's a lot of humor in how some people think things are supposed to go. You know, just like tithing. You know, people think, okay, well, you paid your tithe yesterday, and tomorrow a miracle comes. You know, that's funny. You know, sometimes it's just protection that you get. So I do like I don't stay away from religion.
And do you still follow that religion today?
Yes.
And what about sex?
I definitely talk about sex, but I talk about sex in more of a give the women a voice type of sex because there's a lot of things that women want to say and they can't say. So I try to build that. And plus, as a comedian, about 75% of our audience is catered through women, and they're bringing their boyfriends or asking their men to bring them. So I learned early So a lot of my content is catered towards women and relationships and how to do things the right way and to speak the language that women know.
Are you able to share at least one example of a topic that, I forgot how you just worded it, but something to the fact that they can't say or they can't speak on or something of that nature, but
Yeah.
do you have an example of that?
Prime example is a lot of men don't know that a woman does not have to like you to eat with you. It's just a fact. They will take that free meal. They will plug you into the phone as free meal. You've never got a chance, and they're fine with that. So if you know that already, you may want to do a couple of tests. The George Jackson test. I can't get into deep detail about that, but you need to know these things. When a woman goes out, anytime she goes out, this is without a doubt. There's no exceptions. She even knows if anything is going to happen that night. Every time they know. So you need a little bit. You need to know what you're getting yourself into. If you've been out on 5 dates and nothing happened, chances are you're not the one.
And when it came to some of the food establishments you worked at, because you worked at these particular establishments, are you sick of the food at all? So let's start with Pit Barbecue. Are you sick of Pit Barbecue because you worked there once?
I have to be now because I'm vegan. But when I was there, I enjoyed the food. Now I was always eating McDonald's. Yeah, burnt out.
And my final question when it comes to this segment of jobs here, if you could, would you ever consider owning any of the jobs you worked at? If you could, if the opportunity presented itself,
Yes.
which ones would you actually?
Only one, Publix.
Oh, you would actually.
If I could own a Publix, I'd get a Publix.
And why do you say that?
Publix are where shopping is a pleasure is real. They're always clean. It's great product, great people are always working there. You don't have to worry about attitudes. It's the type of place that I just wouldn't think would be a gamble.
And for time reference, it's August 2021 now. And I do have a further clarification here, because there was one time when you spoke on, you had the detailing business. When did that come into the mix? Was that before the poker?
Right before the poker.
So after the bottle, before the poker,
Yes.
you established that business. And I'm assuming here poker is happening in the midst of that.
Yeah.
And that's what helps end the business at some point.